This is also why someone can, for example, work at a job and let's just say they don't get along with their boss. So they quit that job, they go to a different job, and then they still don't get along with their boss. And they quit that job and they go to a different job, they still don't get along with their boss. Is it that all of the bosses are bad or mean? Or is it that... Welcome back. My name is Reese. I'm the founder of Yes Supply and a mindset and abundance coach. And in this video, I'm going to be reacting to a Joe Dispenza interview with Tom Bilyeu, the creator of Impact Theory. So I've been listening to a lot of Joe Dispenza's work lately, some of his meditations, his podcast. So I'm really interested to listen to some of this one and share with you what I think. And also, if you've been wanting to become a six-figure coach, check the description below for a link to my free masterclass where you can learn the 5 shifts of becoming a six-figure coach. So let's click and watch this interview.
Your world and how you perceive the sense of self and the way that you marry science to the way that we form memories, the way that we live in a perpetual state of reliving our past and things like that. It's really, really incredible. And I want to dive into the whole notion of you sort of being a habitual construct. Like what is that? What is the habit of you?
Well, a habit is a redundant set of automatic, unconscious thoughts, behaviors, and emotions that's acquired through repetition. A habit is when you've done something so many times that your body now knows how to do it better than your mind.
Absolutely right. Habit, the very first time you do it, it feels really sticky. It's like the very first time you drive a car, you have to think about like, where are all the gears and everything like that. But then before you know it, you're cruising, you're changing the radio station as you're driving. It becomes easy and it's integrated into your physiology.
So if you think about it, people wake up in the morning, they begin to think about their problems. Those problems are circuits of memories in the brain. Each one of those memories are connected to people and things at certain times and places. And if the brain is a record of the past...
And what he's saying too, you wake up, you look around you, you see the same people, everything like that. Those are anchors, right? So we learn about anchors. I have videos about anchors on my channel. We create that neurological connection. And then every time we tap on that anchor, it brings back the same feeling. So what he's saying is when we see these same people, we're in the same room, we're going to the same job, it's bringing back those same feelings. And what he talks about a lot is how we can actually get addicted to feeling those same feelings.
The moment they start their day, they're already thinking in the past. Each one of those memories has an emotion.
Ever since he first said that, I notice it. I'll wake up and I'll have a moment of just like kind of nothingness happening. And then I'll think of something and it puts me into an emotion. So I'll either think of a problem and it puts me into the emotion related to that problem, or I'll think of what I need to do and it puts me into the adrenaline rush of needing to get it done or whatever it is. Or sometimes I'll wake up and I hear a baby screaming, so then I have to go run to that baby and that's an adrenaline rush as well. But it's so true. We wake up and we think back to who was I yesterday, and then we just continue to be that same person.
Emotions are the end product of past experiences. So the moment they recall those memories of their problems, they all of a sudden feel unhappy, they feel sad, they feel pain. Now, how you think and how you feel creates your state of being. So the person's entire state of being when they start their day is in the past. So what does that mean? The familiar past will sooner or later be predictable future. So if you believe that your thoughts have something to do with your destiny, and you can't think greater than how you feel, or feelings have become the means of thinking, by very definition of emotion.
So this can work for our detriment, which it is for most people, but this can also work for us positively as well, because one thing that you can do is when you wake up first thing in the morning is listen to a recording like of the identity that you want to step into or the emotions that you want to have, or whatever it is, have things around you that make you feel good. And that way, when you wake up, you can go into that emotion of that elevated feeling that you want to be.
You're thinking in the past. And for the most part, you're going to keep creating the same life. So then people grab their cell phone, they check their WhatsApp, they check their text, they check their emails, they check Facebook, they take a picture of their feet, they post it on Facebook, they tweet something, they do Instagram, they check the news, and now they feel really connected to everything that's known in their life.
I totally agree with that though. Waking up and going straight onto social media, first off, it connects us to who we are because it's that web, like what he's saying. And also, I really feel like it jumbles our brains. Like if we wake up and we know we want to get certain things done during the day, but then we're checking our social media, especially with everything being like a 5-7 second clip, I feel like it really disorganizes everything and then leads us for a disorganized day. So I do notice that if I check social media too early in the morning, I can't get a lot of things done. Whereas if I just start off with more of a clear head and don't check things until later, I get so much more done during the day.
35 years, you're going to just stop suffering and stop feeling guilty and stop feeling shameful, and you're not going to complain or blame or make excuses or feel sorry. Those circuits, they become more hardwired. So you have a thought and then the program runs. But it's the emotion that follows the thought. If you have a fearful thought, you're going to feel anxiety. The moment you feel anxiety, your brain's checking in with your body and saying, yeah, you're pretty anxious. So then you start thinking more corresponding thoughts equal to how you feel. Well, the redundancy of that cycle conditions the body to become the mind. So now, when it comes time to change, a person steps into that river of change and they make a different choice, and all of a sudden, they don't feel the same way. So the body's...
This is so important because, like he said, we can get addicted to emotions, and then we will find reasons outside of ourselves to feel that feeling. So if we're addicted to guilt, then everywhere we look outside of us, we'll see an example of something or someone that makes us feel guilty. And it isn't until we can release that feeling of guilt that we can look out into the world and be neutral about certain things that are happening.
Says, well, you've been doing this for 35 years. You're going to just stop suffering and stop feeling guilty and stop feeling shameful, and you're not going to complain or blame or make excuses or feel sorry for yourself. Well, the body's in the unknown. So the body says, I want to return back to familiar territory. So the body starts influencing the mind, and it says, start tomorrow. You're too much like your mother. You'll never change. This isn't going to work for you. This doesn't feel right. And so if you respond to that thought as if it's true, that same thought will lead to the same choice, which will lead to the same behavior, which will create the same experience, which will produce the same emotion.
I want to talk about that notion of, give me a little more detail on what you mean by the body becomes the mind or the unconscious mind. What do you mean by that exactly?
This is such a good question, and I love it because I think sometimes we think that our mind and our body are different, but actually it's all one. You know, we can exercise, for example, and it can improve our brains. It's shown that exercise can actually improve memory, can improve different parts of the brain. So to think of it as separate, I feel like it can oftentimes do us a big disservice. We can use our body, use somatic techniques, stretching, shaking, yoga, whatever that is, breath work, to inform our mind and help our mind feel differently, just like we can change our thought and help our body feel differently. And when we're doing both, when we need it, as we're going through different things in our life, that can help us make huge transformations. A big thing that we can do is ask ourselves, which of the nervous systems am I currently in? So am I parasympathetic, feeling calm? Am I sympathetic? I need to fight or flight. I need to move, because if you need to move, maybe you need to go for a run. Maybe you need to do shaking. Maybe you need to do something that gets the energy out. Or am I in the shutdown mode of my sympathetic nervous system, the dorsal vagal, where I need to be calm? Maybe I need to meditate. Maybe I need to take a long nap. And being aware of these different nervous systems that we can be operating in depending on what's happening in our lives, and then using the tools that help us navigate it, it can help our bodies feel better and our brains feel better too.
Well, those are two different things. Your body is your unconscious mind. In a sense, if you're sitting down and you start thinking about some future worst case scenario that you're conjuring up in your mind, and you begin to feel the emotion of that event, your body doesn't know the difference between the event that's taking place in your world, outer world, and what you're creating by emotion or thought alone.
That's so important. And, you know, we can think of a negative future outcome and have to live and relive that negative thing and it might not even happen. So, I work with a lot of coaches. So a question that came up recently is someone was in a launch and they're thinking so much of the worst case scenario of their launch when their launch has just started. How is that going to impact how they're showing up for their live streams? How is that going to impact their posts? How is that going to impact their energy that they're feeling the whole time? And whether the launch feels exciting or whether the launch feels draining. If you're thinking of the worst case scenario of the launch failing and then bringing that into the present so you feel all of that failure and sadness and regret and loss and shame or whatever it is, you're already living it. The outcome doesn't even need to happen because you already feel the pain of it happening. And so, this is easier said than done, but one of the things that we can try to do is think about what would the best case scenario be and how would I feel in that best case scenario? And if we're going to be living out a future event, might as well live out a future event that feels good and is exciting to us rather than one that feels to a detriment.
So most people then, they're constantly reaffirming their emotional states. So when it comes time to give up that emotion, they can say, I really want to do it, but really the body is stronger than the mind because it's been conditioned that way. So the servant now has become the master, and the person...
This is also why someone can, for example, work at a job and let's just say they don't get along with their boss. So they quit that job, they go to a different job, and then they still don't get along with their boss. And they quit that job and they go to a different job, they still don't get along with their boss. Is it that all of the bosses are bad or mean? Or is it that the person within them, maybe they have certain emotions around working with authority figures or being told what to do or, whatever that is. And so oftentimes when we can work out what that is, it can support us in these different situations feeling better.
All of a sudden, once they step into that unknown, they'd rather feel guilt and suffering because at least they can predict it. Being in the unknown sins because the person doesn't want to be in the present moment and engage it consciously. So when you teach people how to do that with a meditative process, it turns out that when they're in their life, they're less likely to emotionally react. They're less likely to be so rigid and believe the thoughts they were thinking.
I love that too. Respond over react. That's something I learned from Bob Proctor. Can we respond to situations rather than reacting? It's oftentimes going to lead to such a better outcome.
They're more aware of when they go unconscious back into a habit, and that is what starts the process of change. And so we have to unlearn before we relearn. We have to break the habit of the old self before we reinvent a new self. We have to prune synaptic connections and sprout new connections. We have to unfire and unwire and refire and rewire. We have to unmemorize emotions that are stored in the body, and then recondition the body to a new mind and to a new emotion, like deprogram and reprogram. That's the act, and it's a two-step process.
Yeah, I like the way that you call that out as an action. There was another thing that you said that I thought...
And I think something that's important to share is Joe Dispenza's meditations are absolutely amazing. He talks about deprogramming and reprogramming. And I love that. That's a big thing that we do in our coaching certification too. We get clear on what is the emotion that I want to feel? What is the habit that I want to have? What is the identity that I want to step into? And we use subconscious techniques like hypnosis, like EFT, like neuro-linguistic programming to program in what it is that we want and program out whatever it is that we don't want or whatever is not supporting us.
Was really powerful about how insights themselves are essentially inert. They don't do anything. What then do we do with an insight? How do we take a breakthrough moment and make sure that it's not just a breakthrough moment? Like, I guarantee people watching right now are having like 100 aha moments. For sure, that was definitely the case for me as I was researching you. And when you said that, I was like, and that's the danger, that you have the aha and then nothing.
Yeah, and it is a danger because then people will shrink back into mediocrity and they'll use the insight to excuse them from taking a leap. They'll say, yeah, I have a chemical imbalance in my brain. Yeah, my father was really overbearing. He was a perfectionist. That's why I am the way I am. People, they come up with stuff to excuse themselves. The insight is actually giving them permission to stay limited. And it's an amazing idea because they'll say to you, that they really want to get over their anxiety. But let's take your ex-husband, let's put him in a straitjacket, let's duct tape him and shoot him to the moon. Now what? What are you going to do now? You still have to make those changes. And so then when the person's enemy dies or something shifts in their life and that person's gone, they'll find another person to hate. This is just how we function as human beings. We just slide another reason to feel those emotions. So I think when people start to understand this, I think knowledge is power, but knowledge about yourself is self-empowerment.
So how much of this is...
Yeah, so it's not just about knowing, but it's about being. You can know all of these things and still make the same mistakes. It's when we actually are living all the things that we know that we can see the change in our life.
Really learning to just bifurcate the world into there's negative emotions that have negative neurochemistry associated with. And you said that in those states, if you're living in a perpetual state of stress hormones and things like that, illness is like a...
And I think it's important to add, it doesn't mean that we can't feel emotions. Of course, we're going to have sad days and mad days and everything like that, but it's a matter of not staying in that for a prolonged period or allowing a bunch of different things that happen to us to keep us in that state, but learn that we're bigger than it, that we can overcome it.
Step away. And then just the other side of that is understanding, but there's this whole other side of positive energy, which happiness, joy, empowerment, whatever that, neurochemical cocktail is, but that when you're on that side, your immune system is more likely to function.
And it's important to remember too that we're coming to this world to learn lessons. So suffering is going to happen, struggle is going to happen. And if we're thinking to ourselves like, why do I have to go through this struggle? Like that is a part of being here and learning those lessons. And sometimes it's rather than resisting it, but embracing it and knowing, okay, I'm going to be moving through this. I need to hold the faith that things are going to get better. And I need to allow myself to have this experience that can give us some support and some confidence as we're moving through the tough times, knowing that it's all part of how this all works. There is polarity. There is going to be good. There is going to be bad. It happens to everyone, even as beautiful as someone else's social media might seem, we're all having ups, we're all having downs. So trusting, that we can move through it, but holding on to the vision of what it is that we want and having faith and that holding on to that energy, doing our meditations, doing our inner work, whatever it is, can help support us in getting there and the healing that can happen.
Well, is that just sort of bringing it down to a really base level? Is that sort of one of the big pieces?
Well, let's talk about it in terms of survival or creation. As I said, 70% of the time, people live in stress, and living in stress is living in survival. Now, all organisms in nature can tolerate short-term stress. A deer gets chased by a pack of coyotes.
So yeah, stress is normal. Things happening to us are normal, but asking ourselves, who is it that we want to be? Where is it that we want to go? Getting clear on that vision. So at least we know where we're navigating the ship and doing that inner work and getting onto that energy where we can get there. EFT can be really helpful. Meditation can be really helpful. There's so many great tools for that. So thanks for spending time with me reacting to this video. Let me know what you thought of this video below in the comments. Make sure to like, subscribe, and also if you want to learn more about becoming a six-figure coach, head to the link down below and sign up for my 5 shifts of a six-figure coach masterclass. I go into creating a signature program, how to attract your dream clients, how to know who you want to be as a coach, and how to stand out in the coaching world.